All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Last Word. We do this program every Tuesday around this time. Great for joining us. My name is James Smart. Now, The Last Word is a program that we started because, like you, we get very frustrated with everything that happens in the week. We get many issues to deal with. Some we can't even pay attention to. Others are just well designed to do exactly what they're supposed to do, just to deflect you, but not really give you an opinion about really what you need to do. So this program, we started because of that particular question, that can we focus on one issue with the usual cast and the guests and some experts and try rally around a specific issue and say, this is the absolute last word. As always, I'm joined on the program by Zah Indimuli, veritable Gen Z, truthsayer, naysayer, whatever you want. She might pick you on certain issues, but this is why we have her on the show. Sharon Momani, a journalist of over 15 years. She's been at the center of almost every story, going close to every story, and trying to get the truth from a human point of view and make sense. She's here with us. Of course, we have Eric Latif, a journalist of over 25 years. He asks the hard questions and comfortable questions. And in this program, he does exactly that, over and above everything else, engaging you. Also, we do have a live audience that you can see now, everyone with their opinion, but most importantly, we have to get to the point and rally towards the point. Also, we have Faith Ngede, Assistant Director, ESCC, Sheila Masinde, Executive Director, Transparency International, Kenya, and of course, my name is James Smart. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Last Word. The question today is, can Kenya win the war against corruption? Can Kenya win the war against corruption? Almost think that this is a question that we shouldn't be asking, but we have to ask it in this day and age. As always, we start with a very simple issue that is disturbing you at the course of the week. Where should we start? Perhaps with Sharon today.
Okay. My hot button tonight is based on what seems to be forming as an alternative voice, politically speaking. Mm-hmm. There is a group of young politicians who recently have been speaking about forming a political movement that is fronting the interests of Kenyans. The Kenya Moja Alliance is what they're positioning themselves as. And this is my hot button because this comes at a time when Kenya definitely has been calling for a reform in leadership, political leadership to be precise. And these young politicians are saying that they're stepping away from, who are the shadows of their political leaders and political members. Includes the Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna, MP of Kitutu Chache South, Anthony Kibagendi. Let's just hear what they said recently before I continue with my hot button.
Sisi ndio tumekataa kupigia Nebukadneza magoti. Sisi ndio tumesema kama ni mbaya, sisi ndio tumesema tuko tayari kukufa kwa ajili ya mambo ambayo tunaamini.
And this is my hot button because this is not a new thing happening, and there's always the question and the political gimmick of, divide and conquer. So Kenyans are thirsty for a new crop of leaders. These are young leaders who are running on the questions that Kenyans are asking. Can anybody call for accountability? They are running on the call for accountability, saying that they can die for the cause of the public good. They can do whatever. But the truth comes, in my opinion, with showing exactly how they're going to do this, because these are leaders already in positions of influence. Start by showing that you can give the kind of accountability, addressing the plight that Kenyans are suffering most right now. First, start by addressing the missing 67 young Kenyans who were arrested during the protests. You have alluded to this. Start by talking about addressing the lingering questions of corruption, in this country. Let us measure you by your actions. That is my hot button tonight.
When you mentioned that, I'm here thinking, as a Gen Z, every time when we talk about politics, as a generation that has been known to not participate. And right now we are literally at the benchmark of every single situation. These individuals are in positions of power.
Yes.
I think the credibility of getting into a new position should stand out with what you have done, with the power you already have, and now looking forward to what you'd want to do better, given a better position. But what I'm seeing here, and you see the political intellect of connecting to Kenyans' issues and, you know, sensationalizing them. The Kenya Moja tactic is actually courtesy of the fact that we are just from a protest where we said we're leaderless, fearless, tribeless, and so it becomes the best narrative to accustom to.
Offering yourself as the head to this.
We will die for this cause. You haven't died yet for this cause. We have seen the silence of most of these folks when Kenyans were killed outside Parliament. So I think for me, as much as I don't want to be the one to cast shadows on young people wanting to lead, I think like these are youth at heart necessarily, so.
Just show us exactly how different. Because talk is cheap.
You have to allow them to at least set the foundations before you ask
in a church as usual.
And also just be very hot in that moment to say that we want this talk to be accompanied by what you actually have in your jurisdiction capacity to do.
Yeah, like I'd watch to see the Sifuna I see on Citizen live on Senate.
Right.
Man's not hot.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough.
We do. Well, one thing for sure is that there's a generational change that's coming.
Yeah.
By 2032, all the current top leaders will be exiting the stage. Who is going to enter that stage? But whether it's now the younger leaders that we have currently, or it's a new crop of leaders that somebody is going to occupy that space.
My caveat for this always is this, that young leaders never necessarily mean that good leadership, all right? Every year, we have 70% transition of new political leaders, and we have the same madness every year. So I'm never too excited by young leadership. Doesn't mean exactly positive leadership.
I mean, some argue that, you know, these are people who have already been in the game. So you know how it's working. You know what Kenyans are pointing out. You're actually privy to most of the things that we are trying to cure. So then having that, and knowing that you're as young as the people who are calling for a new Kenya, that this is a Kenya that you also stand to benefit from, as somebody who has shown on, you know, like flagged on a new dawn for the country, you know? Just
Friends.
the benefit of experience and the benefit of just responding to the needs of Kenyans.
All right, Latif.
My hot button is on what's been happening over the recent weeks. Over the weekend, Kenyans scrutinizing the government portals and looking at the SHA operations and SHA payments. And then, in fact, yesterday, the Cabinet Secretary for Health coming out to say, there's been something that's been going on, and we're doing something about it. So we've seen it. We've seen the public going into the portal that was provided by a government, by Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale, saying we are actually publishing all the facilities and how they are gazetted and how they are operational. And then we saw him guns blazing, coming out yesterday and saying, in fact, yes, there are fraudsters and we are nabbing them. We are nabbing them so well that we caught some of them at the door with 10 billion shillings. They were just about to leave, but then we were like, kuja hapa. What are we doing about it? We are registering them. We are suspending some of these facilities and so on and so forth. But what you're seeing is a lot of loud noise from some of these corrupt people, and it's corruption fighting back. Now, I want to acknowledge that Aden Duale is actually coming out to speak about it, but the way he is coming out to speak about it is appearing reactionary and responding to public questions and not being proactive. And I'd like to offer just some words of advice here, just taking a look at what happened in 2020. COVID declared, President Uhuru Kenyatta forms an emergency response committee, says the Cabinet Secretary for Health is in charge. And Mutahi Kagwe takes that mantle and decides that communication will be his weapon. And daily, Mutahi Kagwe had briefings. In fact, we came to know him as Mr. Fellow Kenyans, because we just knew 3 p.m., fellow Kenyans, he'd come on. And what he'd do, Mutahi, is that he'd appear flanked by his 2 CASs, Dr. Masi Mwangangi and Dr. Rashid. Then he'd also bring in the Acting Director General of Health then, Amoth. He'd periodically bring in other cabinet secretaries, whether it's an issue of let's impose a curfew, the CS for Interior would be there. Schools are closed. People are asking when schools are going to be opened. The CS for Education would be there, and so on and so forth. So we had them coming on and speaking. And what that did was it gave Mutahi the opportunity to take control of the narrative. There were very many issues that were happening then on, a lot of people mistrusting, but he was taking the lead. And I think that's what we need to see with Eden Duale. Stop shadowboxing, Eden, and start just taking the lead. Come out with regular updates. Come with experts. Bring in people. Bring in the SHA management, whether it's chair and the CEO. Bring in the DHA, the Digital Health Agency. Bring in KMPDC, that's registering and licensing facilities and doctors. Bring in the Council of Governors that are in charge of health and devolved units, and so on and so forth. Bring other stakeholders, private hospitals, faith-based hospitals, leadership of the public facilities. Let them come and join you. And when they ask questions, you take up the questions and say, I'm going to respond to this. If there's something that I don't know, can you respond to it, SHA? Can you respond to it, DHA? And so on and so forth. Lead. Do not be shadowboxing. When there are mistakes that have been made and it's by your officers, just own up and say, here there was a mistake, we're going to correct it. And then maybe the public will start coming along with you and there'll be buy-in. But this shadowboxing and saying, it's people fighting back, we're the ones who are fighting corruption and everybody else is a corrupt person, it's not going to work. That's my hot button.
As he fights the hot button, again, in the team, I'm the one for receipts and bulldozing government, as they bulldoze us every day. I think maybe the CS should look at a letter, reference number KMPDC LDGF 0201, which was directed to George Mbugwa, the director for Sipili Maternity Nursing Home. And it was an order to close for renovations and a revocation of licenses. Yet when you look at the SHA list, the same hospital that is closed for renovations has millions in allocations by SHA. So noticing that this licensing circulates around our organizations, the ministry as well, it's very ambiguous for the CS to claim that fraudsters are coming from the outside. Most of this data is there and it's signed off by one of his officers. So as he's, we're helping him curb corruption. So that's just a letter I wanted him to notice and maybe follow up on.
I hear you, and I hear what Eric is saying, because we can't underestimate how critical communication is, public communication, because particularly in a docket as critical as health is, and that we are in the rollout phase of SHA, that it's important to carry the people along, especially that there has been so many questions, so many ambiguities, so many things that Kenyans seem not to understand, so that you stay away from always being on the defense, that you can go ahead by communicating what we need to know in advance, unless the only communication is defense, which then becomes a problem.
I mean, this assumes that the problem government has a communication problem. I think it has a bigger problem than communication. And yes, these communicating SHA and this whole madness that they put together is quite complex, because even them, they don't understand exactly how SHA and people, beneficial owners and hospitals, how everything comes together. And this is the frustration I have with government, that communication is supposed to be simple when what you're communicating actually makes sense from internal communication. And I've never seen any internal communication from government actually make sense. So go to the beginning of rolling out of SHA. It was so complex that even the companies that were contracted couldn't explain exactly what they're supposed to do. But they had contracts running into billions. And I think that is the problem of this system as it is today. The inability to have them to be very clear with the public what they're doing. So you have this feeling constantly that they're trying to hide something. And that's the problem. So you then end up in knots, because in the beginning, what was supposed to be a clear thing, we are changing a whole healthcare system because of why? Because either NHIF did not work or NHIF had corruption. Or why did we change NHIF? Yes. And so forth. So that's the problem. Anyway.
I always say that, and this is just, it's government, it's private sector, it's everybody. A concrete part and a core part of implementation of any project is communication. Communication cannot come at the end. you've got to start with communication as an integral part. Yeah. This is what we are doing. Who do we need to communicate with? Yeah. If it's internal stakeholders, let them understand. External stakeholders, let them understand. You can't come at the end and now start looking.
Participation is not at the core of that process.
And that's where we come in. So we not only ones with issues that are burning, we also have a live audience. Let me start with the gentleman right ahead of me, please. What's your name? What's your hot button? What has been bothering you this week?
Thank you so much. My good name, very good name, is Kelvin Mwangi. I am the Secretary General of Tujibeba Kenya Party Youth League. My hot button today is 27th of August 2010 on a Friday, where this nation promulgated the 2010 Constitution. 15 years later tomorrow, we get to mark the first Katiba Day celebrations. We have had a myriad of issues over time, but for a minute, fellow Kenyans, let us take a pause, assess the journey we've walked 15 years to this point. Have we really made the strides we need to make in terms of addressing the challenges? Is devolution becoming a problem? Because in the beginning, we had the issue of underrepresentation, but to this point, we are not addressing the issue of over 1,000 MCAs. We are not addressing the issues of the senators, the governors, the devolution that happened, and the devolving of leadership roles. So my deepest concern and my clarion call today is that amidst what we will term as the noise, amidst what we will term as the chaos, can we please pause for a minute, Kenyans, and celebrate, or rather self-assess and self-evaluate ourselves for the past 15 years. Then from then, we will ask the pertinent questions we need to ask ourselves. That is my hot button. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, the lady in front of me, please. What is your good name? If it is good.
Well said. My good name is Claire Njeri Gathoga. I'm a student leader at Kenyatta University, School of Economics. So my hot button today is about the new funding model. So recently, the government said that the band numbers will stop being there. Okay, we were celebrating for a while, but when we came to look at the admission letters for our first years, the same criteria that was used back then with the band numbers was the same criteria that was used to give them the money that they're supposed to pay as the household fee, is the same criteria that was used. So our question is, what was the change there? Was it the band number, or was there a facade or a political achievement being involved? We are still wondering as students. Another thing about the new funding model is Court of Appeal termed it as unconstitutional. Till date, we've never had anything from the Court of Appeal. I thought education was a central and essential part of each and every person, and I thought it could be carried with the urgency it deserves, but till date, the Court of Appeal has greatly disappointed us as students, and we've not had anything from them. The new funding model has also disappointed us because public participation was not involved. Most of us do not understand our fee statements, and thus we have my hot button and my burning issue as a student leader representing these students in Kenyatta University. The banding and the new funding model does not sit well with us. Thank you.
Wow. It appears there's another communication problem here, Latif. Yeah, but this is basically the point. Again, the education and system has been in knots. If we talk about not just the question about what happens with high schools and primary schools in regards to capitation, the new funding model, again, there's just an ability to explain what exactly is happening, you know, and it's appearing a bit too much for you to say this is a communication problem, is a governance problem now. You know, they have to really think about how to govern before they think about communication. But anyway, to the question of the day.
Right. The question of the day tonight, we're focusing on the subject, the dragon that we've been trying to slay as a nation, the dragon of corruption. Can Kenya truly win the war against corruption? And just last week, we had the EACC announcing that it has forwarded 82 high-profile cases for prosecution. At the same time, we've also seen President Ruto making strong anti-graft pronouncement, forming a team to look into the anti-corruption case in the country, the fight against corruption in the country, which is being challenged in court. And we want to examine the paradox of this fight in the country. That on one hand, we have very strong framework, legal framework and regulations that, pit us in a way that we can fight, corruption. But at the same time, the global perception of Kenya as it conducts itself with corruption remains very low. So where is the problem? And this is the question that we want to address tonight. And also helping us to answer this question, we are joined by the Assistant Director at the EACC, Ms. Faith Ng'ethe. Thank you for joining us tonight. We also have Sheila Masinde, who is the Executive Director at Transparency International Kenya. And we just want to start by getting the perception in the room of how we are doing. We have the indices that has been shared by TI over time, and we'll be making reference to that and the data that we have. But let's just begin by a perception of the room. What do you feel that as pertains to how we are doing as a country? Are we winning the fight against corruption? You have boards with you for voting. If to vote that we are making progress in the fight, you can vote on the green side, that yes, we are making progress. Red would be no, we are not making any progress.
Let's be honest.
Let's get a perception.
Freedom of speech.
Be objective.
It's Katiba Day tomorrow.
All right, just raise it up. Do not fear. Jeez.
Be objective.
Well, there's a little optimism. There's a small percentage of optimism.
There's a drop of optimism.
In a sea of pessimism. And I think we want to start with those. I want to start from an optimistic.
I think those are the fighters.
Let's start with the positive ones.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Gentlemen, give these gentlemen on the right the microphone. You're an optimist. How are we winning this war on corruption?
My name is Edmond Otieno, a third-year student at Maseno University and also a student leader, also the CEO and founder of the Primes Charter Africa. When I talk about the optimism, I'm looking at it from the gradual point of view. Yes, we accept that we have not accelerated it to the point where we need, but also, even though everything goes astray, there is always the smallest percentage that is right. Now, I stand for the gradual progress, for the gradual achievements that we are making. Because let me give an example with the institution where I do study at Maseno University. And corruption has shown itself from very many perspectives. But I want to give an example from the perspective of examination irregularity. I'm sorry for that. You see, many a times when you are caught on the wrong side, you have to face the harsh Senate within the university so that the other time you do not repeat the same case. Now, we can't say corruption is not being won in that particular direction, even though the university might not be in a position to capture every student, to at least try to get the biggest number of students who are participating in irregularity, but there is the smallest percentage they can capture. There is the small progress we are making. If we can accept that, yes, there is a small progress, and we start supporting that small progress in a particular direction, then I believe at the end of it, we will be able to win the big war. But if we continue having the mentality that we are not making any progress, it will be so difficult. Okay. Yeah, so that is the point where I
start. It's a mentality, really.
All right.
It's a glass. It's half full.
Okay, let's another optimist before we go to the pessimists on this side. This side, please.
There was no optimism.
There was no optimism on this side.
No, there is.
Give the lady on. Hand over the microphone to the lady on. Surely they're more optimistic than I would like to believe. Please stand up. Tell us your name. Tell us how we're winning this war on corruption.
I am Novin Sirelia. I am from Nairobi. And I believe that we can win the war against corruption. And I always say this thing, we fight it individually. If today I decide that I'm going to do away with corruption wherever I go and wherever I be, I will fight corruption at the individual level. Right now, we can say that we are having a new, let me say, a new group of voters that are coming up. We can train them on fighting corruption at individual level before we do away with those politicians. So if we are going to be like we fight corruption down here, it will be easy to do away with corruption up there. That is my point.
How are you fighting corruption yourself? You.
Personally, I'm not corrupt. Yes, I always.
That's how to fight it.
Okay.
That's how to fight it.
And by the way, let me give this example.
Please do.
Let me give this example.
Yeah.
There was a day I was looking for a job in Kenya, and I was shortlisted to be in the IBC selection panel in 2023. And so I went to the interview in Parliament whereby Honorable Moses Wetangula was interviewing us. And I passed through that interview, and I was like seeing people going to make their way, but I said, I'm not going to do it. You can testify that. And after that, things happened, and Baba called for that mandamano. That's what spoiled for me. But we can fight corruption.
Are you saying that in that whole process there was an attempt at corrupting you?
Not really. That's not what I'm saying.
What's the relevance of the example?
Oh, I requested to give the example.
Yeah, why?
And I was just trying to tell you that at some point you can get something without the corruption being there. Yeah.
Okay.
Got your point. Final one. Final optimist. I have to say that you guys are not doing well. Not giving us yes, please.
We have more.
Thank you so much. My name is Caleb Losikan, a youth leader from Narok County. My optimism is there are bodies that the Constitution has given us to fight corruption. One is the ethics and anti-corruption that draws powers from Article 79 of the Constitution. So, just to conflict a little, learning from George Orwell, The Animal Farm, where he says, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal or are more equal than others. So over time, there are big fish, small fish, and the untouchable. So in the three categories, there have been some gradual change. Because for one, just recently we have seen a former governor being arraigned in court and later went to prison. That is progress. We've seen it over time. Because previously, or there back, the more close you are to the head of state, the more you are immune to bodies that fight corruption.
Okay.
So, over time, I think the president recently formed a body of about 10 agencies to come together to form they want to fight corruption together. But I think to some extent it is undermining EACC being an independent body, because with such bodies, which are some are in government, inside government, they might collide with the independence of the EACC.
Point is made. Point is made. Thank you very much. You've made your point. So here's the thing, folks. Let's go to the other side, okay? And we'll always come back to the other point of view of others who believe that the war of corruption has not been won. But really, if we're to ground this question, how do we win the war against corruption? And to preface what Sharon had said, what is it that we're doing today that gives you all the telltale signs that we'll never win this war against corruption? Okay? Where's the microphone? Okay. Yes and yes. Yes, please. Sure. Go ahead. Yes.
So thank you. My name is Shadrach Mwitalel. I'm a youth leader at Tujibebe Youth League. You have asked how do we fight this corruption, right? I think also we are having a big problem in terms of now. Just take an example of what Latif said about the Duale, Shah, and everything. So you tell me now the cabinet secretary cannot go back and check in the ministry those people who build, who gave the authorizations of payments to those facilities, and they knew they were not good facilities to be built at that time. So at the same time, we're having a responsibility issue whereby when something is done, you cannot go back and take a responsibility in that fire, finding a reason why, what happened. Because now the example of it is, Duale, the good thing Duale would have done is fire those people because, a mistake is done. Blacklisting those hospitals will not do anything. At the same time, we have been having a lot of corruption cases. Just recently of edible oils, till now nothing has been done. ACSC can tell us that they are finding evidence, they are on it, but
you don't believe the ACSC, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Just imagine.
They're in the room.
I know they are in the room, and the best way to call them out that they are not doing us any favor, because you are given that is a body, you are independent, you are, so what is your problem? Why can't you arrest people?
They don't have the powers.
Yeah, like for example, Kimorera and you don't know, it was a Kimorera and whatever. The president said that nothing happened. Yes. So it was a scandal, but till now nothing has happened.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Made your point. Comment here. Yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Prince Kamau from Kiambu County. I recently finished with my university, and I'm one of the very lucky who finished while help was still functional. In my opinion, I am a pessimist when it comes to this conversation on corruption, because it's not just about the money now. We have become corrupt even to our ethics and morals. Case in point, our current government stated clearly that we have the foundations and our basics are in agriculture, health, and education. The very three that were stated have been the center of the biggest scandals in recent days. Lest we forget, we had the fake fertilizers, we have the new funding model, you're hearing the students are complaining, and now shisha, that they have said shauri yetu. Secondly, it is important that we also understand, when we promulgated the Constitution 2010, and we came up with the devolved counties or devolved functions, the corruption also devolved to the county levels. And it is very sad that today we are not even speaking about it. Let's talk about the fact that we as the Kenyan people are very corrupt when it comes to electioneering periods. Sisi ndio tunataka kupewa zaidi. So in my opinion, we have a long way to go. And of course, we have to start at the top and come to the bottom, not the way around. Yes, thank you.
All right. Okay. So let's get some sense in the room. Everyone will speak, but let me get first people who've been adversely mentioned. The ESCC, just take the microphone. As the director is looking at me as if in a manner to suggest that you don't want to speak, but Faith, I'll just lay it up for you, okay? The amount of people who believe in this room are really minimal. Or you want me to take a poll who believe the ESC is doing quite well. But tell us, in this one corruption, as someone who works in, with these issues, constantly giving reports, constantly being front and center on the question of how do we fight corruption, the ethics and the morals question of it. Are we winning that fight from where you sit?
Thank you so much. ESCC definitely has to be at the center of any conversation when it comes to the fight against corruption and unethical conduct. From where I sit as ESCC, we are making progress. And to answer the question that was put to us, are we winning this fight? Can we win the fight? I believe that indeed we can win the fight against corruption. And I'm happy for the optimist because looking back, you can see the gradual progress that we've made in the fight against corruption. And we'll be talking about the new constitution, which with the new constitution, EACC came in. Fighting corruption by EACC is a multi-pronged approach. And not only that, we also collaborate and partner with other agencies. Yeah. So the approach I'm talking about is about law enforcement, where we conduct investigations. And that is the one which is mostly known by Kenyans. And if I elaborate a bit about law enforcement, we have the criminal aspect of it, and we have the civil aspect of it. And the criminal is where we conduct investigations in procurement irregularities, embezzlement of funds. Once we finalize, we forward the files to the Director of Public Prosecutions for them now to commence the prosecution of the suspects in court. Then, in the last 5 years, we have forwarded 752 files to the Director of Public Prosecution, where they also analyze evidence and then they charge the suspects. On this,
how many of those have moved to prosecution out of the 700?
I will give a percentage of about 80%.
80%?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, because the other 20% is not that they just get lost. They are referred for administrative action, where we advise the various institutions that are involved for them to take administrative action, surcharging, disciplinary action, and such, depending on the evidence that's available. On the civil aspect, that is where asset recovery comes in. That is recovery of stolen assets or illegally acquired public assets. And over the last 5 years, we have actually recovered and restituted assets worth 39.5 billion Kenya shillings, both in terms of cash embezzled by public officials, in assets, forfeiture of assets that are unexplained by public officials, and also public land. If I can give an example of public land, which actually you can see where the efforts of EACC are coming in. A while back, we recovered land worth about 53 acres for meteorological department. And part of that land has actually been used by the government to construct the affordable housing, which will host about 30,000 families. That land was individual. Yeah. Individual had gone with the whole 53 acres. But now we can see the public benefit that is going to come out of it.
All right, I know you have many examples and I want to come back to you, okay? But yes. I just want, before I take the break, I want you to hand the microphone to Sheila. Sheila, you're laughing because you know the question I'm going to ask.
Affordable housing.
Don't start on that point.
But go for it.
That rabbit hole, Sheila.
Yes. Please go ahead.
I mean, affordable housing project and integrity in one sentence. Mm-hmm. God, I've seen it all. Yeah, there are a lot of questions on the integrity of on the accountability in the affordable housing, mm-hmm. Including even how much has the government collected so far. We don't have those details from all the deductions that have been made from Kenyans. Yep. Then these houses are being sold, and the houses are being built from the proceeds of taxpayer contributions.
No, that's
and then they're being built on public land. So there's a whole conundrum of so I'm buying a property on a public land that has been recovered.
That's a rabbit hole, Sheila. Please don't go further.
It's a rabbit hole, but Eric, we need to get into that rabbit hole if we want to talk about real corruption.
It's a day by itself.
And actually, what I've challenged the investigative institutions is, if we're going to really tackle corruption, we have to deal with the real big cases that are grappling this country. One of the young people here talked about even edible oil. Where are we with that case?
Yep.
You know, these questions that we have on affordable housing, on the hustler fund, you know, because there are real concerns, and even some questions have come from none less than the Auditor General herself. In regard to the social health insurance scheme and so on, because the concern is all these new initiatives. First of all, why did we need to have some of these new initiatives? You know, from NHIF to SHA, you know, the affordable housing, the hustler fund. You know, when all these things come in a stream, the concern then is, are you trying to extract from the public, and you need new initiatives to extract? Because, to be honest, the economy is not doing well, so there's little money going around to steal, and so you have to create new initiatives. And that's what we needed, you know, the investigative institutions to have the courage to actually get to the crux of these, you know, cases that Kenyans have had to confront in the last 3 years of the current regime. You know, for me, what I tell the independent institutions, including EACC, yes, it's good. We can deal with the small corruption cases. It's important to deal with all kinds of corruption cases. But if we continue to push these big ones, or all these new questions that we're asking about the use of public funds and all these new initiatives, we continue to sweep them under the carpet.
So, Sheila,
you know?
do you think EACC can actually fry the big fish? Yes or no? Still next to you. Do you think EACC can handle the big question?
They will need courage to do that. They will need courage to do that, and that courage they have been given by the Constitution.
Exactly.
That's how beautiful and progressive the Constitution that we'll be celebrating tomorrow, 15 years of that Constitution, that is how progressive it is. It gives them the independence. You know, Article 79 that establishes the EACC, Article 157 that establishes the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, gives these institutions the independence. They are not to be subservient to any person.
Okay, Sheila sits from the hip, but I have to take a break.
Okay.
Because it's important, all right? You're watching The Last Word. We're taking a short break, but when we come back, we'll take it from where Sheila has stopped. The courage to fight corruption. Does it even exist? And we as a people, as the gentleman said, do we even want to fight corruption in the first place? As a people, generally, do you think you want to fight corruption, or you're just not in the mix yet? Like you're just waiting for your turn to eat? You're watching The Last Word. We'll be right back, plenty more on the side of the break. Don't go too far.
It's going to be hot in the room.
Welcome back. You're watching The Last Word. Just before we take the break, asking that important fundamental questions. Can Kenya win the war against corruption? But most importantly, does Kenya have the courage to really, really fight corruption?
Right, and I just want us to take a look at Kenya's Corruption Perception Index. And this is data that we get from the Transparency International Kenya. And the current standing, this is from the 2024 Corruption Perception Index. Kenya scored 32 out of 100. And that score is 0 is highly corrupt and 100 is very clean. So you can see we are closer to very corrupt than we are to clean. And at the same time, this score places Kenya at 121 out of 180 countries in terms of how our perception index on corruption is doing. And just to give it a regional perspective, that the sub-Saharan region had an average score of 33, and Kenya then ranked lower than the average of the regional average, just to paint a picture of how badly we are doing in terms of our corruption perception.
You know, for me, Sharon, and by the way, I was born in 2001. I've not been here long enough to see the cases of Akinandei, Maze. Things are they're not practical for me. But I just wanna ask ACC, and I'd love for you to take me through, like a child as I am. From when I was studying social studies, the EACC was supposed to stop corruption before it even happens. The ACC was supposed to catch it when it happens, and then return what was stolen back to the government, and then promote a culture of integrity. And I want to stick on that, promoting a culture of integrity. I want to take you back to last year, the Gen Z protest. And why I want to take you back is because I think tomorrow I will be crying in my room thinking about our Katiba when I was in the medical tent when people were dying and the EACC was not there to hold accountable to people whose brains were on the floor. But before then, I want to know, Kenyans were practically assisting the EACC to do their work last year by announcing that the finance bill was targeting allocations and billions of shillings being taxed on Kenyans, yet we were not seeing where this money was going. That would have raised an alarm for an open directive of, can we now investigate? Or maybe not. I think that's why I'm asking. And then I'm like, after that, we had high-profile leaders who were quoted constantly. We showed evidence on TikTok of them rubbing on our faces that they have so much money. They were recording themselves on TikTok going through helicopter rides. Like, it was not necessarily, far-fetched, needed forensic science for us to know that there were some people who were mentioned by Kenyans that they were stealing. Was there any follow-up with the EAC? I think another thing I want to know, Adani, it was raised by Kenyans, there was evidence, there was follow-up, there was responses by politicians. I just want to know, with all these things coming up in such broad daylight, then what is the EACC doing?
Mm-hmm. And maybe before you respond, Faith, we can listen to a sound bite from the CEO, Abdi Mohamud, talking about the high-profile cases as you rope this in with what the institution has been doing.
The Commission has completed 89 high-profile cases and submitted these cases to the Director of Public Prosecution for action. Notably, 4 of these cases involve current and former county governors. This also involves 2 cabinet secretaries, former cabinet secretaries, that is, principal secretary, CEOs, and MDs of various state corporations.
Right, I think we'll go to you, Faith, for a response to that, and particularly the challenge that is very apparent that goes from converting investigations into convictions for high-profile cases.
Thank you so much. We have heard our CEO, what he's talked about, and the categories of personalities that EACC has investigated or is in the process of investigating. One of the audience talked about the big fish and the small fish and the untouchables. And from that category of CSAs, governors, PSAs, some of those are political appointees, but they are not immune. There is no immunity against them being investigated. As per the Constitution, no one is above the Constitution, no one is above the law. We are all subject to the Constitution, and investigations are taking place. And if you look at the convictions, already 4 governors have been convicted. 3 governors here have been convicted, the latest one being the former governor for Kiambu, then the Samburu governor, then there's with the other governor, Lenore Kulal. Yeah, Lenore Kulal. So there's no one who is untouchable when it comes to the fight against corruption. And EACC is executing its mandates as per the Constitution and the various statutes that have established it. And maybe to look at the issues that have been raised on finance bill and the Gen Z protests. We know that was a public interest issue, and in our laws, there is the separation of powers. Yes. And we know when it comes to legislation, it's the Parliament that does the legislation. And Parliament, the MPs are representatives of the people. And when it comes to finance bill, where the people, it appears they will be oppressed or in any way, they have their defenders in Parliament who pass the law. EACC deals with investigations on offenses that are defined under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, the Leadership and Integrity Act, and now the Conflict of Interests Act that came up.
On that, not to cut you short, you have a mandate on enforcement of leadership and integrity laws under Chapter 6 of the Constitution, and it's supposed to monitor compliance of the same, vet public officials for ethical conduct, and then recommend removal or barring of leaders found unfit.
Yes, we do that. And we have made recommendations. For instance, in 2024, we made recommendations of removal of 62 public and state officers from office as per the Leadership and Integrity Act. Some of them went to court and filed petitions against the removals, which we are still battling, but some of them, the petitions have already been dismissed and they are out of office. So as far as leadership and integrity is concerned, the Act and Chapter 6, we are actually enforcing Chapter 6. When it comes to vetting of leaders, we submit, when it comes to elections, we submit the reports to IEBC, which has the sole mandate of clearing leaders for elections. So as far as Chapter 6 is concerned, we are doing so. We do receive declaration of assets and liabilities, which are used when it comes to investigations into unexplained wealth, because all public officers are expected to declare their assets by when they get employed, by annually thereafter, and when they are leaving office. Then the vetting of public officers or state officers. We know for certain that when one is seeking employment in public office, they are expected to go through ACC for vetting where they submit their documents. And we have seen the issues that have come up on employment and fake certificates. Where do we get the statistics? Where do we get that information? It's basically through the vetting process once we receive the documents. And we have public officers who are already in court. Some have resigned but once we start carrying out investigations. Others are in court, criminal matters, others civil matters where they are expected to return the money they earned because they used forged certificates to get employment. On leaders who are, or persons, public officers who are displaying overt wealth, we have the mandate under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act to investigate or carry out investigations on unexplained assets, which we have done. And I'm glad to say that we have developed quite heavy jurisprudence on that area. Now the courts have come to, the judiciary has come to understand what unexplained assets are. And it does not matter whether it's former leaders, current leaders, how long it takes. If within a certain period one has accumulated assets that are disproportionate to their known sources of income, then we get in, we investigate as in accordance to the law, and then we file suits for forfeiture of those assets that are found to be unexplained. Okay. So as far as that as wealth is concerned, we are doing something about it.
Let me come in there, Faith, and say, yes, there are cases that have been reported in the media where you've gone for public officers and taken them to court, and in fact, in some cases, the EACC has won. And the courts have been told, yes, this person's wealth plus their known sources of income do not match, take over the rest. The problem always comes with the people that you go for are the people that we don't know. The people that we know, and we can just see this guy. We don't see the EACC taking them to court. And I think that's what you're asking, Zaha. So we don't see the known public officers, that is state officers, to be more specific, MPs, cabinet secretaries, and so on, when you're taking them to court and saying, this person was definitely not worth this much 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But you see, the thing is this, like, Faith, I have a lot of faith in you, and everything you say, I'm completely agree. the issue is this, that you had cabinet secretaries just after the Gen Z protest. We knew when they went for their,
small break, short break.
Yeah, the short break after a month, and they were all sort of reappointed. Actually, I think virtually all of them were reappointed, other than 2 or 3. They all came back and their wealth had dramatically increased, right? Someone who was worth 200 million now said, I'm worth about 650 million or something crazy like that. There's no source of income. They've been working for us for 18 months, I think, by that time. We don't pay them that much, right? We do not even have a statement from yours truly. And this is the frustration, right? That yes, as Eric says, you'd go for everyone else, the former governors, all right, not the current ones, the former cabinet secretaries, the former PSAs,
government officers.
Some clerks in there, and that faith is a frustration, right? That the political will, or if you can, that's it, right? To stand against the big fish, that is what is being questioned. I don't know if we get a point, but Faith can make that point better than I can. Please. Sheila, sorry, yes.
Yes, I agree on what you've said, the questions around even the wealth declaration, because as Faith was speaking, what I noted that we lack in our wealth declaration system, but hoping now with the conflict of interest, which also requires the declaration of private interest, that we'll have a stronger verification process. Yeah. So the cabinet secretary nominee or any other person nominated for public office who's being vetted says that I am worth 600 million, that someone can actually go back and verify this information, because there's a great risk that someone either inflates that amount because you're trying to create a buffer such that if I come in 2 years and I say I have 700 million, you're like, okay, 100 million in 2 years, okay, she earns this amount, that's possible. But in essence, that person could actually be worth less, but you've inflated the figure because you're creating room to steal. The other aspect is that some people underreport, but who's verifying this information? You just see the people in the vetting committee nodding their heads, the chair of the panel speaker nods his head, they just write on, and no one questions those figures that are given. But if we're going to really have a truly, objective wealth declaration system that will enable us to fight corruption, we must start questioning these figures. I think the other point that I wanted to raise also, as we've raised the questions to EACC in terms of the political will and also the caliber of people that are making their way to court, that are making it to the dock, where aren't we seeing the big fish? But you also remember that there have been some big fish who have actually ended up in court, and I wish the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions was here, because we know what has happened. There have been a lot of cases that have been withdrawn in the last 3 years, which have benefited some of the politically connected folks. And those are the questions or issues that we have about the political will to let these corruption cases run the full course. That's why we have a justice system. That's why you have the investigator, and there's a clear separation of roles and mandates and power. You have the investigator, you have the prosecutor, you have the adjudicator, because we're not even giving an opportunity for sometimes the investigator or the adjudicator to do their case. We've seen cases where the ODPP becomes the investigator, prosecutor and adjudicator. And that's why you've had even some of the trial magistrates, some of the judges, like I think Justice Sifuna about a year ago, protesting demands by the requests by the ODPP to withdraw cases, to adjourn matters and so on, and saying, let the judges do their work and let these cases go to the full course.
The problem is actually not our law. We have plenty of laws.
Yeah. Oh gosh, we have so many laws. I don't know any other country that has as many laws, plus the constitution, plus the institutions, plus policies, but the implementation. So that's why for me, as much as yes, we celebrated when we got the conflict of interest law and it commenced last week. For me, I'm not holding my breath because we are so good with things on paper, but when it comes to implementation, that's a problem. We have all these institutions, we have a whole chapter on leadership and integrity in our constitution. 15 years down the line, where are we in terms of leadership and integrity?
Sheila, let me ask you, in your own opinion, and with the virtue of freedom of speech, do you think most of our oversight authorities are independent or political?
Pardon?
Do you think most of our oversight authorities, including the EAC, are independent or political?
They have been infiltrated, or rather there's a lot of executive encroachment in terms of the executive and even the politically, the high and mighty in the political circles get to meddle a lot. Now, most recently was last week when the president purported through presidential proclamation, I think presidential proclamations, because he purported then to form a multi-agency team to fight corruption. But then you're forgetting that you have institutions that have been created by the Constitution whose work is just that, and the Constitution goes further to protect their independence, to say that they're not going to be subservient to anyone. But then you want, as the office of the president, to chair this team. And if you need a coordinating mechanism, we're not saying that these agencies should not work together, but why should it be the office of the president. Who again could likely be a subject of investigation. And then you're going to chair a meeting where those cases are going to be shared.
Our problem really is political, that there is absolutely no political will to fight corruption from the highest level to the least levels. So there's no way for us to verify what happens. Like, for instance, we know being in this panel, Eric has 5 sweaters. It's a fact, by the way, he has 5 sweaters.
I know them.
You know them, right? So if next week he shows up with 15 others, they're like, wait. There is a problem. Yes. How did you get them? So we can't verify those things. But let me get just, what's the microphone? For this side, please, Kevin, to the front. Ian, please.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Ian Ofula. I'm a freelance journalist and also founder of Sauti Sessions, which is a civic storytelling and dialogue platform. I think to the bigger question about whether we are doing well in terms of ending corruption, the answer at the moment is absolutely no. But then if we look at, do we have what it takes to do that? Some of you might remember, perhaps you're too young for this, the Mishuki rules. To date, the 14-seater matatus are no longer 20-seater matatus, and that is because of what Mishuki did. People entered matatus and they were wearing seatbelts. So it all takes, it's a two approach where we have leadership with the goodwill and also the people deciding to not be very individualistic. What we need to know is that the more we keep benefiting ourselves, if I'm given a tender to build this road and I don't do a good job, I need to realize that that could actually end lives, and that is a long effect of corruption. And I think I agree with Sheila that what we are seeing with the formation of the multi-agency team right now is a direct infiltration of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And so my question to Faith would be then, first of all, is it a show of no confidence from the executive about your mandate and your work? And also, do you feel that you're going to be independent to investigate the very same people and agencies which are basically in the same bed as you?
All right. As Faith has said very quickly, then I get back to another round of questions. Just answer Ian, just very quickly.
All right. The multi-agency team has been in existence, but not officially, because you find EACC cannot be able to fight corruption by itself. It's a multi-pronged, it's a multi-agency where even the public is part of the people who are expected to fight corruption. And he's given a very good example. Where I am, in the position I am in as an engineer, as a CDF manager, as a village land board elder or official, what am I doing down there on the ground? And when it comes to multi-agency, it's about sharing information. For instance, we talk about financial reporting center. They're the ones who monitor the transactions within the bank. EACC has no such a leeway to know which monies are being withdrawn above or in multiples as such. So FRC shares intelligence. KRA, Kenya Revenue Authority, is the one which deals with taxes, tax evasion.
So
for instance,
you're saying that without this presidential proclamation, then
the MAT still existed.
Yes.
The sharing of information, sharing of
was it happening before? I think that's what we were talking about.
Yes. Sharing of information, sharing of intelligence.
Yeah.
Training where it's a multi-agency training used to happen. It happens.
Was the president there?
Sorry?
As it existed, was the president part of it? The executive?
The office of the president is not part of
the multi-agency.
It's not a multi-agency. What I'm saying is the issues of sharing information and sharing intelligence, training, joint trainings, joint conferences has already existed. It's not something new. Synergies amongst the various agencies, even when it comes to strategic partners like UNODC, they like putting us in a basket because we cannot do it by ourselves. It's a system, it's a process, and a system is not constituted of just one item or one agency. It's a process. So our working together has always existed.
Okay,
each party playing its own role in accordance to its mandate, but being supported by the other parties. Yeah.
All right. So I get you.
Yeah.
I mean, this presidential proclamation then was an extraordinary. We didn't really need it. You can't say that, but it's okay.
Just before you go to the audience,
yes,
and I want to throw something as we go to the audience.
Yeah.
And that is, Sheila, Transparency International have been part of a group of civil society organizations called the Integrity Alliance, right? They come together, they raise the voice on issues of corruption and so on and so forth. Ahead of the election, the last general election, this Integrity Alliance came up with something called the Red Card Campaign, where they had actually looked at various candidates and those that had cases of corruption pending before court, cases of lack of integrity, issues raised in the community, that lack of integrity. This is from the civil society side. The EACC had passed on a dossier, and Faith has just told us, to the IEBC on people who lacked integrity. These are not things that were happening in the back room. The public was aware of all these people because these people are our friends, our relatives, our fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, cousins, neighbors, right? So we know the corrupt people in our midst. But we always want to point the finger at somebody else to do it. I always argue the biggest implementer of Chapter 6 of the Constitution is the voter. Nobody can question a voter if you do not elect Eric. It can be because you don't like his nose, his sweaters, or because he's corrupt. Nobody can question, no one can take you to court. But the public elects people who are wash-wash people, they know them. People who are corrupt, we know them. People who are, basically evil people, and we know them. So I want to say that
it's a reflection of
we
our values.
Cannot fight corruption. This generation, let's start with the previous alphabet, can start with G all the way to Z, right? I mean, the X, she's in the Z. Some bit of the alphas, we can spare the alphas. But that old alphabet,
maybe they will change the
we
game.
can't fight corruption, I'm saying it. We always want to, we're looking for the opportunity to be corrupt.
So are we irredeemably corrupt as a people? That then this is just a concept. Like, let's just agree we can't fight corruption. Do we think we can actually fight corruption? We're just irredeemably wrong. Like
people
we can't.
said, no.
We can't.
I mean, we went to the streets
But
ourselves.
it has to start
Right.
by looking in the mirror,
Let's give the lady the microphone.
We want to fight other corrupt people. We don't want to fight corruption.
Yes,
man
please
in the
stand.
mirror.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please stand.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Hannah. I'm a student leader and a youth leader. About that, we can talk about figures because we can't just say we can't fight for corruption. We have to look at figures. So looking at the previous year, we had our budget. It was 4.04 trillion, right? And our revenue and taxes came up with about 3.25 trillion. So we had a deficit of 760 billion.
Right.
720 billion. So, but we borrowed 760 billion. So we can take that and compare to the year of 2020-2021. Our budget came at 3 point something trillion. We could come up with 2.4 something trillion, but we borrowed 1.06 trillion. So if you compare the two, we are progressing, but that is the highest level. So coming down, how is this money getting used? Because corruption is there, right? But we cannot blame the ones at the top, because we have figures. Down here, how is it being used? Where is the money going? Because we have more money in infrastructure than in health and education combined, but we have no infrastructure going on.
So who should we blame?
Who should we blame?
Yeah.
Corruption is more down here than up here, right?
So corruption is bottom up.
It's bottom up because our figures up here will show us how we have the money.
Can I ask you a straight question?
Yes.
Who's stealing the money?
Exactly. Who's stealing the money?
There's a reason why it's not getting to the bottom.
Yeah, who's stealing the money?
Because if it's not getting down there and they are the ones corrupted and not getting the money, what are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say, up here, money is there, right? It is being distributed. So the ones who are being distributed to, how are they using the money?
Where do they use it, Ben?
All right.
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Okay, yes, the gentleman at the back, please. Yes. Who's stealing our money?
Thank you.
Yes.
My name is Braxton Lumbasi. So I will say that the public can fight the corruption, but the EACC, the court, and the legislature cannot, because they are being threatened by the executive. Because you remember when the High Court judge summoned the IG, immediately his security was withdrawn by the executive. And also, you remember when the president took illegally the public seal, the EACC never questioned who? The president. We can ask her, did they summon the president, or did they visit the president like they raided the home of Honorable Natembea? Did they do so? So the executive is intimidating everyone.
But do you believe that as Kenyans down here, as Eric was saying, we really are against corruption as a
Sorry,
people?
come again, please.
As a people, right? You and me, we're really against corruption, or just that we're not yet in those executive offices to steal?
We are really fighting the corruption. Do you know why? Because we are demonstrating online. We are going to the roads. In fact, we gave the ACC evidences, just like she said, on TikTok. What did they do? They never followed that.
Okay.
Am I saying the truth? Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you. This side, yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Samuel Mwirore Thiongo. I'd want to be optimistic in this conversation, but I want to choose reality today. We have to agree that as a country, we're in a conundrum. And this is why I'm saying so. We've seen a lot of people who are supposed to be helping us fight corruption being corrupt themselves. We saw the other day the president talking about members of parliament who are corrupt. We've been seeing a lot of reports from EACC, a lot of reports from the presidency, from the executive. But then again, the big question is always, why not take these people to court? Because if the president is aware that we have MPs who are corrupt, why not take them to court and become a witness himself? Because he knows them. You see? So we have a very big problem as a country. We like reporting, but we don't like implementing. And because I've chosen reality again, I want to say this. Even us as citizens, we are great contributors to corruption. Why? if I can give an example of the current political environment, who gets elected in these political seats? Is it the person with no money, or is it the person who has money? You see, the person who gets elected is the person who churns out money, who dishes out money, who gives people handouts.
But why do we do that? I think that's the question I'm not getting as to why do we elect people who dish money and know that they're corrupt? Why?
Because politicians have made us that way. They have made us poor intentionally. Oh my God. So that when you come to give these electors money, they cannot refuse.
All right. Many people are okay. Thank you. Yes. And please hand the microphone to the back, to the lady at the back. Yes.
Thank you. I'm Kennedy Matete, a student leader from the Cooperative University. And answering your question, I think as citizens, we are not making any effort to fight corruption.
Right.
Yeah. I think just based on how we vote, we don't vote based on the manifesto. We vote based on how much you give us.
But why do we do that? Why? Why do we do that?
That is the question I'm still asking myself.
But why do you do that?
Actually, it is my plea. I've never done so. Yes. But if all other Kenyans can be like me, I think we can fight this.
And I'm not intrigued. Who's your MP?
My MP. My MP is
It's okay. All right. Well. Let's have a microphone to this side, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Shimwati Bonfas. I strongly believe we cannot fight corruption simply because if you look from the structure upwards, downwards, everyone seems to be compromised. No one is speaking the truth. No one wants to say it as it is.
Say it.
You see? So, my last word is, as a country, we are refusing to see the truth.
And what is the truth?
The truth is our money is being stolen left, right, and center. We are saying, okay, we all know we're stealing our money. We all know we're stealing our money. Okay, we are taking loans from outside. We are raising taxes. We are doing everything to harm the normal mwananchi, but nothing is changing. Okay. If you look at the hospitals, we have no medicine. The education sector is crumbling. But you see people driving luxury vehicles, others buying helicopters, and yet if you look at their background, they cannot even get closer to a helicopter. But they own helicopters. We know them by names. So I'm happy we have a representative of EACC here. EACC, from my own sentiments, is a toothless dog. For reasons best known to me.
Okay. You've heard your...
Thank you.
Give the microphone to the lady. Yes.
Gender equality on that.
Yes, please.
So thank you so much. So about corruption, what I can say is that we cannot fight corruption when we still have this adage that goes, corruption is sweet when it reaches your door. You've seen so many youths being paid just to go and justify the wrongdoings of these prominent leaders. That is one. Two, today I blame the officers of judiciary, police, and the officers that are in charge of accountability. We want to see accountability of these leaders. When the roads are made, we want to see how much money is used there. You see something like that? Yes, when HELB says that we've dispatched this amount of money to who? To which number? When you talk about percentages, 80% of, we want exact numbers.
80% of what?
Of what?
All right.
We want exact numbers.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Very well said. Where's the microphone here? 30 seconds. I have many people to go through. All right?
Yes. Thank you very much. My name is Frederick Wanyeke. I'm a student leader and also a youth leader. So you've asked why we always take the hands out.
Yes.
Because it's the culture, it's something that we found there, and people cannot deal. So about corruption, corruption is a chronic illness that is affecting our country. And to some, even it sounds as a job description, especially when it comes to our leaders.
Okay.
That's their job. And they have personalized it in a way that to them, it's like a competition, who is looting more than the other. And therefore, the legal framework is there, but nothing is done to deal with that. Okay. The SEC keeps on telling us that they are investigating, despite the evidence being there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a microphone this side.
Yes, my name is Ian Duncan, Cargo or Dibaba. I'll be brief as a cock on the hen. Corruption in Kenya is what we say. Corruption is not benefiting you. One statement. Again, devolution to 47 counties in Kenya came to give access to the resources. But again, it weakened the oversight. And if you see someone talking too much statement, trying to explain something about corruption, how they're doing it, that's mean there's nothing being said there. So this is not working. And again, the president now sitting, the current president, is the only man who stood and said no to this constitution. So if he works against it, don't blame anyone. You voted for him, a lot of young people. You are here, so blame everyone for the corruption.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Where's the microphone this side?
Okay, so permit me.
Where's the microphone? Please hand over the microphone to the front. This side. Yes, the microphone to this gentleman.
Okay, so permit me the latitude to honor this tantalizing opportunity. My name is Trevor Seiko. I'm a student leader. I'm a student in the University of Nairobi, and I'm also a member of the Revolutionary Student Commission. I want to take the panel as the opportunity has been granted to me. I want to enhance some of the common mistakes we've made. I want to do this in the contemporary issues that are being unraveled right now. Basis on the SHA, which was enforced by the government, it is evident that the SHA, it's a planner system, it's a sophisticated planner system, which is an illusion of a reform which is being used by the government to take the trust of the citizens. Because why am I saying this? The trust is being taken as citizens are being entrusted on something that is barely a scheme. It's an illusion, as we are commodifying the rights of the citizens. Citizens are supposed to be getting a right of healthcare. This is the basis of them to be getting it. It's a right in the Bill of Rights. But then these rights are being commodified in the hands of the few individuals as they're being taken into their own sectors. And then the portrayment that's being given by these same leaders to the individuals or the citizens are enhancing that limbo of untrustness and unworthiness, because you're portraying to us as citizens that in the political world you are basis of getting the commodified basis of getting the commodified rights or the commodified, you get the things that are there, but then you don't serve to give us the rights that we deserve. So I want to stand by the fact that corruption is indeed being unraveled in this country, and we cannot fight it if we are being portrayed by the same leaders that these things are supposed to be taken for our own need, because they are here flaunting their jets, their helicopters, and they are here flaunting everything. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know we all have. I've had something that I really just want to expose, because I've seen a couple of people I saw in university. Most of you are student leaders, right? Yes or no question. Oh, my next question is the one that requires a yes or no. Did you use corruption to get to your university role? Yes or no? Don't lie. Yes. Yes or no?
Of course they would say no.
Of course you'd say no.
Of course you'd say no.
University is the highest. Okay. Never mind, let's continue. Let's continue.
All right. Yeah. I mean, you all stand accused. We need to wind down.
Yes, we do. I have a question for Sheila, and maybe you're picking a bit from the audience as well. Just taking some lessons from some countries that have turned around, particularly their perception index on corruption. And in Africa, we have Seychelles, which I think is topping the list in terms of, doing very well. And I think in the last, from 2012, has risen 20 points. And majiraniwe to Tanzania as well have seemed to have turned this around, their index on corruption. So are there best practices
What's the formula?
in context that we can relate with, culturally, politically, and stuff.
Tanzania, yes, that should get Kenyans thinking very seriously about what they need to do about corruption. Though Tanzania is still below the global average of 43, and any score below 50 still manifests a serious concerns around corruption and shows that a country is still struggling. So Tanzania is just at 41, but still doing better than Kenya. So I know we've been fighting about football, fighting about issues about who's better, democracy and human rights. But they're topping the index. I think they've topped, not really topping, but doing better than Kenya over a couple of years. Now, in terms of best practices in the fight against corruption, and I like the fact that you use the word, what we also need to do culturally, because my own reflection is that we need to go through a whole process of behavior change. The good news is I think that we in the last 3 years, I've seen Kenyans more active, demanding, and it just starts with, creating that knowledge and changing that attitude. I see the attitude of Kenyans now when I compare it with what it was 3 years ago, where you saw much more lethargy, indifference. I felt that people really didn't care, especially after we came from the elections. But now, people are demanding and asking questions. You're asking about the finance bill, you're asking about Shisha Shu, you're asking about, the Hustler Fund, you're asking all these questions. People are going on site where their government projects being constructed, or, where money is being spent, and trying to estimate, is this worth the money that we are being billed as taxpayers? And I think those are progressive steps towards Kenyans wanting to know more about where their money is going and trying to follow the shilling to the last cent. And I think if we keep this going in the next couple of years, we'll be making very good strides, because for as long as we remain pesky and ask those questions about our finances, I think we are going to take a good journey in the fight against corruption. So what we need to do is enhance the social accountability approaches. And I see Kenyans already doing that when you look on social media and so on. But the other thing that we also need to demand is, of course, the access to information on all this financial information. That's what's happening in progressive countries. Information on money, on spending, public budgets, expenditure is given without even you demanding. It's given proactively. Now we have an access to information law that was enacted in 2016 that guarantees us information that is held by the government, because that is held on our behalf as taxpayers. We shouldn't even have to demand or write for it, or go to court. Many times we are having to go to court to get this information. So we should start by first demanding that the government is very proactive in giving us information, particularly on the problem areas like procurement. I think most of the cases, if you look at even the ESCC reports, a lot of the cases touch on corruption and procurement and conflict of interest. So as a start, can we proactively get information on who's getting all these government contracts? Who are the beneficial real owners of these companies? I know there's a new system, procurement system, EGP, being rolled out, and one of the demands that we have made is actually this system must ensure that Kenyans get real-time information on all the real owners of the companies that are getting business. So this is a kind of information that we need to start holding the government to account. I think then we'll be making the right strides. And I think the other aspect that we really need to do is checking who we elect. I think we've already talked about that. Because when I look at the constitution that we'll be celebrating tomorrow, I feel that we got this constitution, but then it feels like it was a new patch on an old garment. You know that parable in the Bible? What happens when you put a new patch on an old garment? The new patch will shrink. Eventually it will tear. That cloth will tear. And at some point, when you look at the outcome, you'd say that, well, you should have just let the new patch stay, the new patch and the old garment, be separated from the start, and we shouldn't even have tried to put them together. And sometimes I ask myself, this constitution came to a country where the systems were rotten, the people and the culture, especially when people, and I talk of leaders, were not, willing to make the strides that are required to ensure that this constitution is implemented to the fullest. Right. We gave office, or we gave the mandate for public office to people who are not committed to this constitution. When you look at leadership and integrity and all the elements of the Constitution that have not been implemented. And also the proclamations that keep coming from the president, even the one that came today on the compensation, victims compensation framework. Last week on March, the other year we had this body he set up to, audit public debt. And I just ask myself, do you understand the Constitution and what it demands? You have institutions, independent offices, which are supposed to do all these things that you're now setting up, task forces, structures, committees to do. So we also have people who don't understand the Constitution, or just who simply don't want to cede power to the Constitution and the people in accordance to Article 1.
All right. You must have the final word. You've been mentioned adversely.
Very much. But we are always there. And as we say, I'm not saying the audience is corrupt, but corruption fights back. And someone just stated that it's not corruption if it serves your interests.
Right.
If one gets employed and they've given a bribe, they'll never complain. But one who gave money and never got the job or the opportunity, then they complain. It's always a deal gone wrong kind of a matrix. So public, I can't belabor these points as underscore the point on citizen responsibility. Because leaders come from our background. We know them, they are relatives or they are village mates. Yeah. So whom do we elect? And it's the public which knows really what goes on down at the grassroots, mashinani. Secondly, I'd like to mention about the reporting of corruption. For instance, it's been alleged that MPs are corrupt, but do we have particulars of that? Because we know our judiciary is evidence-based. You have to prove evidence. And corruption never happens in the open. So you have to dig for intelligence, you have to get warrants, you have to get court orders to do searches, to investigate bank accounts. And EACC undertakes that very rigorous process for us to meet the threshold of beyond reasonable doubt for the cases to go to court. It's rigorous, but EACC is equipped, and I can say there's a way forward. We can't give up hope. We can see systems are being developed so that everything is at the fingertips. We have the e-government procurement now, where the process, all the way from tendering process to payment, will be accessible, and the Mwananchi can follow up. We have now the conflict of interest bill, where the reporting, the responsible commissions have been well defined, so that those public and state officers who did not know where to report, especially when it comes to declaration of wealth and assets and liabilities, can report. We have the anti-corruption laws amendment bill that is coming up, and that is to enhance actually asset recovery, because we have seen persons engage in corruption mostly for the benefit that they are going to get out of it. When you take away the benefit, then the impetus to engage in corruption goes away. So we have these progressive strides that are being made every day to address the issues of corruption. And I request the student leaders, you are in charge, you have an audience. What are you telling your audience at the campuses, at the universities where you are?
I think you should start by investigating them.
So having that audience, you can actually turn the tides around. Our culture is the last point. EACC has established Adili clubs in primary school. This agitation of Gen Z, now we are going to Gen Alpha. By the time Gen Alpha is getting to a stage where they can go to the streets, they will be knowing what integrity is, what to look out for when it comes to leadership, what to ask their leaders to be. So EACC is also addressing the issue of culture and culture change within our society, starting with primary schools and secondary schools through the Adili clubs.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. So Eric, to wind down, and I think the final point is Kenyans at the base of it all, in the beginning of this life of this parliament, Kenyans actually increased the number of members of parliament who have these anti-corruption challenges, quote unquote, something to close to 47% from the previous parliament. So we keep on increasing. This is our trend, that actually next parliament will have more corrupt people than this one. It's just by the account that we like these people a bit too
knowingly
much.
and willfully.
Yes, we like these people a bit too much. It's, mwizi wetu is, we can't prove it, and in any case, he gives us money. These are sort of the themes that Kenyans go for. So I think at the base of it all is, how do we address that question of culture change? Or we accept and agree that it's impossible for us to have a corruption-free republic, and then address it as such. Because this appears to be like a fantastic academic exercise where no one has admitted we have a problem.
I think there has been admission, not widely. We are all accepting that it starts with us, and this issue it's a mirror from the leaders that we elect and all of that. They are a reflection of our values, and I know we're coming down to the last word, answering, can we win this war against corruption? Do we have some comments from
our social media has been active. So, of course, every Tuesday we post the poll and we ask, so today, can Kenya win the war against corruption? And across our platforms on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, is a majority by over 70% saying no, and a minority saying yes. Just a reflection of what we saw in the room earlier. And some comments. Someone says, yes, it's possible, but corruption in Kenya is fueled by extreme inequality and scarcity. The best approach would be abolishing private ownership of key industries and natural resources like land, minerals, banks, utilities, so that wealth is not concentrated in a few hands. That's his approach. Somebody else says, of course we can win the war against corruption. And the day that I ate the biscuit of my son and helped him to look for them the whole day, finally we didn't find them. That's how we feel.
That's accountability. All right, so the question, can Kenya truly win the war against corruption? And we find that the answer to this question is complex. And we'll break down what we have, supported by data and the conversations that we've had. That first, political will is paramount, as we have seen even in other countries that have turned around their corruption index, the culture in their countries. It starts with a will. Where there's a will, there's a way. And that has been demonstrated that, there has to be an unwavering political commitment. This is from whence we can get enforcement of the laws and legal framework that we already have. We don't have a shortage of laws that, are there to prevent and cure corruption. We have that. So the challenge we have is not a lack of legal framework. We have the Constitution of Kenya, and we have the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, as well as other laws that really provide the framework for this fight. At the same time, asset recovery is key. And we've seen that the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has reported significant strides. Mgala muwe na haki yake mpe. That, in 2023 itself had recovered 28 billion Kenya shillings, up from 2013, which was about 5 billion. Yeah, so a significant improvement in asset recovery. But that we are saying the real problem is a cultural problem, and that we start solving this not just from a single prosecution or a grand public pronouncement, but that we will begin seeing the fruits and the yields of this fight when we as a society make a decisive shift, and that we have to have political leaders who demonstrate an unwavering commitment to the rule of law, and that we ourselves as Kenyans also have to hold ourselves accountable. It starts with us, with the choices we are making, even with our everyday endeavors, and as we make political decisions. We have to reject the culture of mtadu, you know, this is the way that we have to go. And that's showing that data is showing us that this is the ultimate last word, that we have the ability to fight, but the victory will only come when we, as a people, decide to change. That's our last word tonight. Thank you very much. My co-hosts on the extreme right, Zaha Indimuli, James Smart, Eric Latif, and our guests tonight, the entire audience that have joined us for this conversation tonight. Special thanks to Faith, the Assistant Director, Faith Nyabe, Assistant Director at EACC, and Sheila Masinde, the Executive Director, Transparency International Kenya. And you for watching us from home. Thank you so much, and for your input. We'll see you again next time on the next edition of The Last Word. I'm Sharon Omani.